We are now on Chapter 2, Network Hardware Essentials. In this chapter, we will discuss network interface cards, repeaters and hubs, switches, wireless access points, and routers. Chapter 2 is a very short chapter. It only provides a basic overview of networking hardware. We will go into greater detail on all of these subjects in subsequent chapters. So let's start out with a network interface card. A network interface card, as you know, is a circuit board about the size of your hand, and it allows the networking cable to plug into the back of the network interface card. The network interface card plugs into slots on the motherboard. The network interface card plugs into slots on the motherboard, or it can be built into the motherboard. The network interface card is what the cable plugs into. The network interface card has something called a MAC address, which is also called the Media Access Control address. It is a serial number which is burned into the network interface card by the manufacturer, and it is also known as a hardware address or a physical address. To look at the MAC address, we can go to the command prompt and we type ipconfig /all. Now, as you know, ipconfig displays the current IP address, and then the /all shows more information. Particularly, it shows that our physical address or our MAC address. The MAC address will be discussed later in the class. Network interface card drivers. A driver, as you know, is a piece of software which takes the data from the operating system and puts it into a format which is acceptable by the hardware. For example, a printer has to have a printer driver, and if you have the wrong printer driver, the data comes out all scrambled up. Similarly, a network interface card must have a network interface card driver. Let's look at the network interface card driver. We click on Start and go to Control Panel, and then select Hardware and Sound, and then we select Device Manager. Device Manager shows the installed hardware on the computer. And under our Ethernet card, if I right-click and select Properties, we can see that this is the driver for our gigabit Ethernet network interface card. I could disable the driver, or I could update the driver. As network technicians, we are constantly downloading and installing network interface card drivers. It's a major part of our job. The cable is used to connect the network interface card to the switch. And if the cable is too long, the signal will attenuate. Attenuate means the signal gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And on your typical Ethernet cable, it can only go 100 meters until the signal is so weak that it cannot be read by the computer at the other end. So if we need to go more than 100 meters, we get a repeater. A repeater is a device that simply pushes the signal down the wire another 100 meters. One cable plugs into this end of the repeater, and the other cable comes out of the other end of the repeater, and the repeater boosts the signal so the cable can go another 100 meters. A hub is a junction box that connects workstations to servers. And a hub can boost the signal or not boost the signal. If you have a passive hub, then it does not boost the signal at all. But an active hub also boosts the signal. So an active hub is both a hub and a repeater. Now let's discuss switches. Most modern Ethernet networks use switches, and a switch is very much like a hub in that it is a junction box which connects computers together, but a switch provides much more bandwidth than a hub. A switch reads the MAC address on a frame header, and then it forwards the frame to the computer which has that MAC address. And we will cover the difference between switches and hubs and routers when we get to Chapter 8. A wireless access point should be called a wireless switch, but they call it a wireless access point. And a wireless access point is typically used when you're doing Wi-Fi wireless networking. A computer with a wireless network interface card, there's the network interface card, and there's the little antenna on the back, connects to a wireless access point. And the wireless access point is inside of the wireless router. And we will cover Wi-Fi in greater detail in Chapters 3 and 4 and 8. Routers. Whereas switches connect computers to computers to form individual local area networks, routers are used to connect networks to networks. We can have LAN to LAN routing or LAN to WAN routing. This is a diagram of LAN to LAN routing. This router connects this local area network to this local area network. If I add a third network interface card and I connect it to the internet, then we have LAN to WAN routing. Here's a diagram of a routed LAN. This is the CCBC Catonsville campus, and you can see each building has a switch in it which connects together all those computers in the building. And this building has a switch which connects all the computers together, and here's our data center which has a switch which connects the servers together, and then the router connects all the local area networks together and then connects everybody to the wide area network. And routing will be covered in greater detail in Chapter 8. Chapter 2, Summary. In this chapter, we discussed network interface cards, repeaters, hubs, and switches. We looked at wireless access points, wireless network interface cards, and network interface card drivers, and routers. And this concludes Chapter 2.